part of the city.
All right, today on The Explainer, we are tackling one of history's absolute greatest engineering feats. I'm talking about the Roman aqueducts. So when you think Roman aqueduct, what comes to mind? Probably something a lot like this, right? These magnificent, soaring arches stretching for miles across the landscape. And you can see why. I mean, the sheer scale is just incredible. It's an absolute symbol of Roman power and ingenuity. You know, it wasn't just us looking back who were impressed. The Romans themselves were blown away. The author Pliny the Elder, writing back in the 1st century, was just completely in awe of them. And it's so easy to see why, right? For centuries, these things have been seen as the monuments to Roman genius. But here's the twist. What if I told you that this iconic image, the one we all have in our heads, is only about 20% of the real story? That the arches are just the tip of a much, much bigger iceberg? Yeah, you heard that right. Because the really surprising truth is that a whopping 80% of the Roman aqueduct system, it was all underground. We're talking miles and miles of hidden channels, these secret rivers working silently right under their feet. So let's go there. Let's dive into this hidden world and see where the real engineering genius of the aqueducts was. So how did they do it? Well, the entire system was a masterclass in physics, but it all came down to one simple yet incredibly powerful force: gravity. That's it. They built these channels with a continuous, super slight downward slope, and that gentle slope was all it took to get water to travel for miles and miles, all the way from the mountains to the city, with no pumps, no engines, just gravity doing all the work. But you know, this was an incredibly delicate balancing act. The engineers had to get that slope perfect. I mean, we're talking unbelievable precision over dozens of miles. Because if they made it too steep, the water pressure would build up and literally burst the pipes. Total disaster. But if it was too shallow, the water would just sit there, stagnate, and become completely useless. So let's follow the water's journey. It was basically a 4-step process. Step 1, you find a clean source, usually a mountain spring. Step 2, the water flows through those incredible underground channels with that perfect gradient. Step 3, it arrives in the city at a big main tank, a distribution hub they called a castellum. And then finally, step 4, from there it's sent out to the fountains, the baths, and, if you were lucky, a few private homes. And these things were absolutely built to last. You can just see it in the materials they used. Sure, you've got stone, brick, terracotta pipes, but their real secret weapon? It was Roman concrete. They sometimes mixed it with volcanic ash, which created this incredibly durable material that could even set underwater. It's a huge reason why these structures are still standing thousands of years later. Okay, so we've got all this water flowing into the city, but who was it for? This is where things get really interesting. Because once that water arrived, it became a powerful political tool. And a lot of what we know about this comes from one guy in particular, Sextus Julius Frontinus. Think of him as Rome's water commissioner back in the late 1st century AD. And lucky for us, he wrote everything down, giving us this incredible inside look at how the whole system was actually managed. And what his writings show is fascinating. See, the emperor provided the people with the annona, a grain dole, which was all about basic survival. You know, keeping people from starving. But the aqueducts? That was something else entirely. This was about luxuria, or luxury. It was about showing off. By bringing a massive man-made river into the heart of Rome, the emperor was making a huge political statement. He was saying, look what I can do. I can conquer nature itself for your benefit. And the numbers back this up. If you look at where all that water was going, it's pretty eye-opening. The vast majority, well over half, wasn't going to people's houses. Nope. It was funneled into these massive, lavish public baths. We're talking almost 1,000 of them. And these weren't just places to get clean. They were the social centers of the city, where business got done, friends met up. It was where everyone could experience a little piece of that imperial luxury. So, for the average Roman on the street, what did this mean? Well, getting a private water line piped directly to your house, that was a huge deal, a rare privilege. In fact, you often had to petition the emperor himself to get one. So, for most people, the daily routine didn't change all that much. They still got their water the old fashioned way, from public fountains, wells, and cisterns that collected rainwater.
So, after all that, after centuries of change, the fall of the empire, what's the legacy of this incredible system? What's left?
Well, what's incredible is that some of it is still working. Seriously. If you've ever been to Rome and seen the famous Trevi fountain, well, the water gushing out of it is supplied by the Aqua Virgo. That's an aqueduct that was built way back in 19 BC. It's over 2,000 years old, and it's still doing its job. It's just mind-boggling. It's really no wonder the famous historian Edward Gibbon called the aqueducts one of the noblest monuments of Roman genius and power. Because that's what they were. They weren't just stone channels for water. They were the arteries of an entire civilization, flowing both above ground for all to see and silently, powerfully underground. And that really leaves us with one final kind of humbling thought, doesn't it? The Romans built for eternity. And it makes you stop and ask, what are we building today that will still be around, still serving a city 2,000 years from now?